Hey everybody, we're so excited to have Curtis with us tonight. I wish we could go back to doing every week again because it's like every time we hear him and Lisa, it's just like a breath of fresh air. So Curtis has an amazing...
Sweethearts. I appreciate that.
We just love you.
No.
Everybody loves you. Everybody's falling in love with you that hasn't known you before. So you have a huge fan club, just so you know.
Well, there you go.
Curtis has a presentation that he does that is kind of gives us the gist of how an actual event should go. And I heard a little bit about it before when he did it, and it's really, really cool. And so we wanted to do an official presentation for you guys to be able to see how it runs and how Curtis does it, because it's fantastic. You're gonna love it. So I will let you get started, Curtis.
Awesome. Well, listen, here's what we're going to do. We're going to set the stage, then I'm going to kind of stand up and move back to the board behind me. And what we'd actually talked about was one of the last times that I was on, we talked about, how to move through fear into confidence. And so if you watch that, I think it's just some simple advice that, particularly for brand new people, you can turn off any hesitation or uncertainty and move right into confident action that is actually will lead to the greatest success. But part of that process is as you grow, particularly in your local areas. I mean, I know there's so much that's done online, and in today's world with the communication capabilities online, that's extraordinary. The reality is, if you look at the biggest organizations that have been created in our profession, historically by people who have been the largest income earners over very extended periods of time, eventually all of them had significant activity that was offline, and it's like they solidified almost permanently their business, because human beings are social animals, and there is no technology that's going to ever change or replace that. And there is nothing that replaces the ability to attend a physical event, to shake hands with, to see someone again who's become a good friend, the smiles, just the connections, the camaraderie. And a lot of that boils down to, in many cases, where you build pockets of strength where local meetings take hold. And the reason that has always been a lifeblood and a foundational part of our business is it's not just that in a meeting, it's where those who have greater expertise can help the weak. It's actually where strength is grown if you look at them the right way. And it's actually where you can actually develop strength in your newer members and develop team strength at an extremely rapid rate, in a very fast compounding rate, if you have a local weekly meeting. And then from that, of course, people can still build online. You can plug in towards your national events, which everybody obviously has to attend. I mean, it's critical. There is no guarantee that going to events is going to ever make you any money or make you successful. But here's the fact. All of the top elite and most successful in every company have attended every single event. So there must be a clue left by success somewhere in there that at least one of those components of great success is that they attend every event. So what we want to do is, I mentioned that I could do a training for you about if you're going to do a local meeting, how would you construct it so that you could get the best impact, the greatest result, and actually have it be a meeting that all of a sudden it starts growing and compounding, because from the guests who attend, whether they choose to join the business or not, they think, wow, what a great thing that was I just experienced. That's number one. And number two, as people do get excited and begin to join the team on a localized basis, the team's growth will compound, and that meeting's growth can compound dramatically if you execute it properly. And so that's what we want to talk about today. How do you actually execute a local meeting in a way that creates maximum result and maximum growth and development within the team? With that said, what we're going to do is we're going to come back here, and I think, let me just check. I had drawn a line. Yeah, good. So I just wanted to see where my drawing area was. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go ahead and whiteboard, and there's a couple of things I want to touch on. And first of all, what we're going to talk about is we're going to create kind of a little chart here. And so here's the starting point of the meeting. This is the emotional engagement level of someone attending a meeting. I think you guys can see it. You see that line? Okay, good. And then here is the timeline of the meeting. So here's the meeting time, and here's the emotional engagement. The reality is that in our profession, people make a decision. Their heart is what drives the desire. Their head has to justify it. If you have meetings that are all fact-based, you will have very minimal results. If you have meetings that are pure emotion-based, you'll have some result, but it may not stick. You need a combination of the two. But the truth is, if you don't get emotional engagement, you'll never reach your maximum potential. But how can you combine the two effectively? First of all, I think that, and one of the things that I learned very early on with mentors, is that meetings are not where the best person in the group stands up and does the whole thing. In fact, there need to be 4 people who execute the meeting from the front of the room, and that is your desire. Your goal is to have, if a meeting is going to take place, there will be 4 people at the front of the room during the process of the meeting, okay? But the meeting actually begins before these 4 people get started. Great meetings have team members who operate the registration table. In the registration table, when you register people as they show up, both members and guests, you want to have name tags. Hello, my name is, and you can at least put down a first name. You want 2 colors. Why? 1 color for those who are already members of the team and 1 color for guests. Why? Because as the speaker at the front of the room, I can very quickly glance out because blue are the team members, red are the guests, or vice versa, and I can instantly see who it is that I'm really speaking to. Because I'm there speaking, I'm coaching my members by how the meeting executes, but I'm speaking to those who are attending as guests. Be able to see, I want to see if they're engaged, I want to see if it's making sense, I want to see if they're connecting, and I want to make sure that I'm being effective in that regard. It starts there, the proper and effective registration. Is there great lighting in the room? Have you set the music appropriately? Is the temperature okay? And the temperature, you don't want it freezing, but you want it a little cooler because the room fills up. You don't want it getting warm. All of those things, the seats set properly. And we could get so detailed, this could take forever. So we're not going to focus on that, and that's the pre-meeting setup. You know, when I was first introduced into this profession, 27 years ago, and then 28 years ago, when I was first mentored, they taught us how you walk into the room with a guest. How do you seat your guest? I was literally taught you will take your guest down the center aisle, you let them enter first, and then you follow in behind them. So technically, closer to the center than they are. Why? Simple. When the meeting started, you can be chatting with them. When the meeting starts, you sit up and actually slightly lean forward and actually move forward in your chair, and you stay focused. Don't even look at your guest unless there's a joke, and you turn and nod quickly because they watch you engage in the meeting, and it starts to make them feel engaged. It takes the pressure off them. You're not just staring at them, but you really got. I mean, there's so much detail when I think about when I first began. In fact, I was talking with some really top earners at an event not long ago, and we talked about some of the great skills that have been lost just because of technology and the speed of process that were the fine-tuning things we knew. So we'll set that aside, but at the very least, registering people properly so that standing at the front of the room, those people who are presenting the information know who they can see at a glance without having to, can you raise your hands? I'll still ask people to raise their hands. I want to engage them in action. The reason I do that, if I engage the room in action, it keeps them connected to the meeting. And that's why when I ask questions, I teach my team members, all your hands go up every time. Why? We are a team. You support the people at the front, they support you. You will expect them to do a great job for you so that your team is growing, then support them. So when they call out, respond. All that said, though, let's go back to the psychology of a meeting, a precision run meeting, because 2 things are happening amongst these 4 people. These are not necessarily skilled and experienced people. There needs to be at least one who is strong. Well, that's it. Nobody else needs to be, because we can break a presentation down into components where people who are very new could effectively do part of the presentation with great success. And it doesn't have to overwhelm them at all. They could actually do it in a very powerful way. And so here's who the 4 people are. The 4 people that you're going to need to conduct a presentation. First of all, you need an MC. And then you're going to need speaker 1, speaker 2, and speaker 3. Now, if you literally physically don't have 4 people, then you can combine some things. But if you had a perfectly run local meeting, you would have 4 people engaged in the process: the MC, speaker 1, speaker 2, and speaker 3. In addition to that, though, you would have various of the members who are geared up and prepped, because there's 2 sets that you need. You want 4 to 5 who are ready for product testimonial, and you want another 4 to 5 who are ready for the business testimonials. Again, and coming back to it, touching on it briefly, we can do another training. How do you actually give a testimonial? It should never be more than 90 seconds, preferably within 60. There's an actual art to giving a testimonial. Your name, where you're from, what you've done in the past, what attracted you most, and what's your experience. Meaning, hi, this is, my name's Curtis. I'm from Dallas, Texas. In the past, I've been in, a real estate broker. But what attracted me most to doTERRA were the products at first. And my product experience with this particular product is I had a condition. Here's what it was. Here's what the circumstances were. I dealt with these issues for so long. My doctors and physicians were not able to overcome it. When I started using these products, it actually made a dramatic impact in my life. In fact, it has also done the same thing for my brother and sister. It's just been a wonderful experience. And thank you for letting me share. Boom. I'm done. Sit down. It's not a doctoral thesis. It's not a dissertation. I'm finished. Get over and get out of the way. Why? The purpose of testimonials is not to go on ad nauseum until you kill everybody's mental activity. It is for people, it's not the depth of the testimonial, it's the number of them. Because I want in 5 to 7 minutes to be able to get 4 or 5 or 6 testimonials, bam, 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 bam. Because I don't need to give a doctoral thesis. It's the fact that I was a real estate broker. The next person is a single mom. The next one's a retired grandmother. The next person is a doctor. The next person is a truck driver. It's that I want to select a group of people who are broadly diverse, because I, as the speaker at the front of the room, may not always connect with everybody, but they may find someone that they can connect with. And so there are product testimonials and then business testimonials. Same thing. Hi, my name is Curtis Broome. I'm from Dallas, Texas. In my past, I've been a real estate broker. I made great money. The challenge was at the end of every transaction, I had no income unless I had another transaction. And as much money as I made, I worked so hard, I didn't have time for the family, etc. And when I was introduced to the doTERRA business model, I realized that I'd seen something that could solve my pain and my problem. It may not happen right away. And so I continued to be working real estate for my first 3 years. But by halfway through my 4th year, I was able to retire myself. I've been full-time because by leveraging team building and the team success, as we've talked about, I realized that I could create the life that I wanted. Boom, bing, bang, bang, bang. And so we can do that in some future thing. There's actually even more detailed than that. There's a specific breakdown of what it is that you do when you do product and business testimonials. But let's just say that these people have already been trained effectively on how to give both product or business testimonials. I have pre-constructed this before I have my local meeting. Now, again, if you're starting a meeting in your city and there's just you're all of it. We kind of have to put this in a perspective. You kind of got to grow it a little bit. So, yeah, there may be 2 of you who do the whole 4 positions, and there may only be 2 product testimonials, and you're both of them, and then somebody else. So, but that's okay. Let's talk about if you can grow a meeting to where it's 20 or 30 people, and you've maybe got 15 or 20 who are team members, and another 10 or 12 who are showing up as guests, that type of thing, then that's a foundation, okay? The reason I want to tell you this is because the MC can be a relatively new person. And we'll talk about what their role is. It needs to be someone who's at least got a slightly outgoing personality, but they don't have to be Zig Ziglar. They just have to be they're going to cover some simple basic things. We'll talk about that. Person 1 can also be relatively new because they're going to talk about the industry and the company. And those are really fact-based conversations. Typically in a PowerPoint, there are already pre-done slides. The power of our profession, it has grown by leaps and bounds. If you look at the numbers today and how much it's grown in the last decade, even during financially difficult times globally, look at how powerfully our profession has grown. It is attracting more and more business professionals as the world has changed. Here's our company. Our company is this old. These are our statistics. This is our background. That's really very much fact-based telling. I don't need a talented speaker. I need someone who has made a decision they wish to grow, And it's not about how good they are. It's not about them being Mr. Polish or Ms. Polish professional. It's about someone who says, I am a servant heart leading person. My fear of speaking in front of others is my weakness because I'm focusing on me and not them. So I'm going to choose to grow, and I'm going to overcome my personal difficulty by deciding I'm going to grow because I can serve better if I do, and I'm going to stand up at the front of the room and I'm going to make this work. And I literally don't care if they click and read the slide. Now, over time, if they've done it 20 times, they'll begin to add personality. But because those are fact-based presentations, it's just we got to get the information out, and we'll talk about that. The next person, speaker 2, is covering the products. Again, they don't have to be a science officer. All that information is done elsewhere, but it's a fact-based presentation. And whichever are the key products that you talk about, not going into too much depth. Again, the information about products is the logical information that the mind needs so it will approve the heart's emotional desire based on the attraction that's created through an effective meeting process to want to join. So the heart is what drives it, but the head simply approves it. And things like company information, product information, that allows the head to say, yep, this is looking pretty good. Heart, run with what you got. Let's go fly to the top. So if I've got and then speaker number 3, that individual is going to go through the business model and bring up the business testimonials. That's the one person who needs to be probably the strongest. Okay. So of everyone, the strongest is in the final cleanup slot, number 3. Everybody else could be brand new. What you might consider so brand new and fresh, they might be weak. They are not weak. They are brand new. And I'll actually show you how in a meeting you can actually play to their newness, and it creates strength in a meeting, and it creates camaraderie. Mentally, everybody's cheering for everybody, and it's a wonderful thing. And so here's the process. Just before the meeting starts, here's where the MC begins. The MC, first of all, it's about 3 or 4 minutes before the meeting starts, and everybody's kind of beginning in, and the MC begins by stepping up, and if they've got the microphone or whatever it is, getting everybody's attention. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be getting started, by the way, in about 2 or 3 minutes. If everyone could do this, if you start moving towards your seats. However, if you do need to go to the restroom, they're right outside the door, down the hallway to the left, and then hurry right back. We're going to be getting started in about 3 minutes. Okay, that's where the MC starts. The first time the music came down, there was an actual out loud announcement. Everybody realizes, and if you've got team members, you teach them. I know you've been standing outside waiting for those fictitious guests to show up. Now it's time to engage. Next time, pick them up and bring them, but let's all come in and get ready because all of the team members are in the meeting because we're supporting those who did have their guests show up. That's what team members do. So we're there ready to go, okay? So that's the pre-announcement. So the MC's job is very simple. It's just really to kick the meeting off, and there's some simple announcements. As the meeting begins, the first thing the MC does is say, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. So the MC kicks off here. The MC is going to have done the pre-announcement when the meeting kicks in. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much. Again, if you can take your final seats, we're going to get started right now. First of all, just a couple of quick things before we really get started. If everyone would pull out your cell phone, take a look at it, and let's take the sound button down to vibrate. If you really need to know that somebody's trying to get a hold of you, word is silent. Thanks so much. And next, if you could do this, throughout the meeting, you may have questions. If you would please hold your questions and jot them down. The reason is the meeting is designed to try and answer most of them, and you may find your question actually will get answered at some point. If not, the minute we're done, we will have the ability with all of us here to make sure any questions you still have remaining, we'll get them answered. So if you could do that, that way we can respect your time and get through the information as efficiently as possible, and then we'll stay with you all night long to get all your questions answered. Thanks so much. So the MC does the housekeeping, and those are the 2 things. Hold your questions so you don't interrupt the flow of the meeting, but do it in a way because it may get answered, and if nothing else, we will all commit to being here until your questions are answered, so they'll know to hold them. And number 2, turn off your phone so there's no interruption. When the MC then begins, so they've just done a little bit of housekeeping. When the MC begins, the first thing they do is say, now, by the way, let me tell you a little bit about why I'm here with you, and they now tell their story. The reason is there is only one thing that raises emotional level: personal stories. There is nothing that we can say as we talk about the company and the industry that raises the emotional connection level. There is nothing we can say about our product. When the person is doing the company conversation, There's nothing we can put in a PowerPoint that is going to raise the emotional connection level. There's nothing we can say about our products. The testimonials of people's experiences with our products dramatically raises emotional connection level. So the first thing that the MC does is they tell their story. And so I'm going to show stories by these dots. And what happens is, as it comes off, because some people in that audience are listening to that MC, their background, whether they were a teacher or a truck driver or a business professional, and they're hearing this individual story about what attracted them to doTERRA, what attracted them to the team and the team spirit, and that's why they're there. So they tell the story, and then the MC intros speaker one, okay? So now there's the simple introduction of speaker one. When speaker one is brought to the front of the room, the way you introduce someone is the very last thing that is said is their name, and all the speakers are back center. They're going to come. You always make sure you set your room so you've got chairs on two sides and there's a center aisle. And the speakers always start at the back of the room and they walk straight down the center aisle to the front. When speaker one gets to the front of the room and they take the microphone, they take the front of the room, you know, they smile. Obviously, you smile, you connect. The first thing they do is say, listen, thank you all so much. When the MC introduces speaker one, they want to talk about whatever their background is. It can be a newer member of the team. They've accomplished some level of success. Maybe it's very minimal. Maybe just the first rank. It's whatever it may be. But I want to introduce someone who's going to talk to you about our profession and the company. They've been with our company actually a relatively short time, but they've had amazing success in just a short time, just achieving, they've gone through our first two ranks. Whatever it is, it's just the basic setup. They also have a wonderful background. I'll let them tell a little bit more about your story, but they've got a background in education and teaching and coaching, and that's why they also love our business. But please welcome to the front of the stage, Broome Clark. The last thing you say is that's how someone is introduced. You put together what their introduction is going to be brief, and you don't tell their story because they need to, but you give it a little bit of an overview of who they are. Please welcome to the front to kick off our meeting is Broome Clark. Boom. Broome comes to the stage. The first thing she does when she gets here, she tells her story. What is it that brought me here and what attracted me here? Now, before we've even gotten into much of the meat of the presentation, we haven't even really gotten to phase one, which is the company and the industry and company information. They've heard two different stories from two different people with two different backgrounds. Now what Brome's going to do is she is going to do the industry or the profession and the company. That's why this can be someone who's still newer. The MC can be really new because they're just somebody who seems like a nice person and doesn't have a fear of pointing out where the bathrooms are. Turn off your cell phone and please hold your questions. I mean, that's their only skill. And and all they have to do is introduce speaker one, because everyone's going to introduce. The MC is literally done after they've introduced speaker one, except maybe if you want to do some special announcements at the end, because every speaker then introduces the next. So an MC slot is a great way to take someone who's joined the team, has done a little bit, whatever you guys decide is the benchmark activity, but we get them to the front of the room because they don't have to be overwhelmed. Tell them where the bathrooms are, tell them to turn off their cell phones, tell them to hold their questions and tell your story and introduce speaker one. That's just not complicated. So as a result, I now get someone at the front of the room. They're getting front of the room experience. They're not doing any of the things that seem more complicated. Now, speaker one goes through industry and company. This is taking some time, but this is creating credibility. This is a fact section. Here's our profession. Here's the statistics. Here's the growth. It's undeniable. In dramatically downturned economic global times, our industry exploded. That's what its power is. They go through the necessary points of that slide. Boom. Then speaker one intros speaker two. That happens. So here's where speaker one got intro. Speaker one does company product. They introduce speaker two. Speaker two, when speaker two comes up again, and please welcome to the front of the room, Mark Clark, boom. Speaker two, first thing they do, they tell their story. So we now have a third individual now we have three different perspectives that our prospects can be connecting with, three totally potentially different individuals. Again, speaker two doesn't have to be extremely experienced. They can have a similar type of experience because if speaker one, MC, and speaker two, all of these individuals are ways to break people in. They can literally point at the screen, click the button, read the product. It's not very exciting, but it gets the information out because after they tell their story, they're going to do the product presentation. But then part of the product presentation, when they're done, it's just click, 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 click. If people want really scientific facts, they've got a billion other places to get it. That's not in the meeting. It's just an overview of the key products that create some basic answers, click, 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 that sets up the testimonials. So speaker 2 then does the product testimonials. And here's where, now in product testimonials, you don't have people come to the front of the room. And here's why. You want it to be speed, but you want it to be connection. And oftentimes, whenever you are doing a meeting, whenever you're on, it's the us and them syndrome. It's just a natural connection. Even if you don't have a raised stage, even if it's the front of the room, everybody's sitting, you're the one standing. There's a natural us and them separation. It's a psychological thing. However, even though there's a lot of team members in the audience along with prospects, still in the prospect's mind, all the folks sitting, this is us and that's them. And so what you want to do with your product testimonials, you've predetermined and you've told them, even if they have guests, don't sit together, spread yourself throughout the room, because I want my product testimonial folks to stand up where they are. Because it will create a distraction in a positive way. Because suddenly someone says, in fact, let me call on Mary. Mary, if you share a little bit about your product, just your product, your story of your experience with the products. Well, I'm the guest in the 3rd row, Mary's back in the 6th row, and I hear her speaking. I either start to turn or I hear, but it creates action. In other words, people have been sitting for a minute. They've heard about the industry and company and heard about the product. It's people turning and shifting in their seats. So the other side of the room shifts and sees her. Some people may turn around. But here's what happens. By standing up in the audience and giving the product testimonial, in the mind of the prospect, it's, wow, one of us is sharing their stories. Not them up there. It's one of us. Oh, this is cool. And so I would like to pick my product testimonials who have a wide range. Someone who's younger, someone who's older, someone who's business professional, someone who's self-employed at home, whatever it may be. If I have that ability, if I've got a small local meeting because we're just getting started, you take all of this that you know and know this is where I'm headed. It's not where I'm starting. So I'll start with me and my three friends, and we're just going to start a meeting. But we're going to grow it out of the living room into the into the community center in the apartment complex. We'll grow from there to the local church. We'll go from the church to the hotel. We'll go to the hotel to the stadium one day. But we see where we're going. And so product testimonials. So what you want to do is you want to have boom 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4 or 5 product testimonials. Bam, 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 bam. And that's why you want them no more than 90 seconds, preferably within 60. Hi, here's my name, here's where I'm from, here's the part of the community that I'm from, here's my background, but here's also my personal physical circumstance, and here's the product. I love all the products, but particularly I love these 2 because here's what happened. Boom, sit down. Next one, boom, boom, boom. And by having them around the room, all of a sudden, the mental process in a prospect's mind is, wow, there are lots of different people, everybody, younger, older, in between, everybody's getting these great results. Wow, oh, that sounded like my sister's condition. Oh, that's my issue, or whatever it is. So by getting a diversity of testimonials over time, it's about connection. So if you look at this, the MC's conversation is a couple of minutes. His story is probably, again, 60, 90 seconds. He intros speaker 1, that's another minute. Speaker 1 is up there, it's probably 5 or 7 minutes to talk about the company and the profession at most, and gave their story. So maybe they're 7 or 8 minutes into it, they've covered that. Then they introduce speaker 2 who gives their story. Again, that's another 90 seconds. Then boom, they go through the product, which is another 5, 8, 10 minutes at most, because you're touching on things, because it's not the product information. I got to get to the testimonials, that's the killer. Boom, 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 boom. So I'm maybe 20 minutes into the meeting and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stories. It is not that I had one person standing up talking about everything. I've got 8 stories and I'm only halfway through the meeting. That's why the psychology of this part of the process is killer. After the product testimonials, speaker 2, so the product testimonials, speaker 2 does the product testimonials, then intro, speaker 3. And so when speaker 3 is introed by speaker 2, speaker 3 comes up and the first thing they do, let's kind of get speaker 3 right here. Speaker 3, boom, they tell their story. I'm now at 10 stories or 9 stories. I'm 9 stories in, and I'm about 20 minutes into this meeting, 23 minutes into, 22 minutes into the meeting. And now I've got my best speaker up. Why? Because this is the part that this is the most critical part when you talk about the business model of trying to grow a team. You do not ever teach a compensation plan at a business presentation meeting. You highlight compensation models. Every compensation plan in the world has components that are designed to pay brand new people very quickly, usually minimally, but at least for initial effort. So that if they go into immediate action, even if it's just finding a few consumers, getting some retail profit, whatever it may be, there are parts of you can take any compensation plan and say, if there are 8 ways we have 8, 12, 6, whatever it is, there are 6 ways we can be compensated. But I'm not going to cover all of this evening. I want to highlight a few key areas. But what I want to share with you is the power of our business model is it really has 3 types of rewards built into it. One, some immediate rewards. They may be smaller at first, but immediate rewards for people. So as they immediately begin, even on a very part-time basis, whether it's gathering a few customers or finding some people who might also want to join them in this team process, they can start to earn some immediate income. Then we have a second category where as people start to really grow teams, doesn't have to be large teams, but as they start to grow teams, then we get second stage income, which can hopefully then, for those who wish, it can lead to larger, longer-term income. That's really our third stage, and that's as people develop leadership skills, meaning they start helping other people succeed. Then we have third category of rewards, and that's really our leadership rewards. As you move up in just your skill and understanding, you become more of a coach and mentor, not just a student. So some of the first types of income are really as you're a student, you can start making money right away. As you start growing a team and you're kind of a student and a coach, then you've got a combination that moves you towards hopefully maybe one day more of a significant income based on your goals and desires, and then other things that touch upon larger scale leadership as you really become a great coach and mentor to others. Now, there's just 2 or 3 things I want to touch on though. Here's what they are, and then boom, I'm going to go through them real quick. Why? So speaker number 3 is going to do the comp plan, but they aren't going to do the comp plan. They're just going to talk about it conceptually, so that all things, as people are new, and if you're very part-time and you need a little time to get some experience, boom, we break it down into these 3 things. They go through the comp plan. Again, this is done in a way that makes sure that you're making sense to the head. You shouldn't be talking about making 84 gazillion dollars. Yes, there are those in our company who have done that, but that's because they've chosen that path. That's not necessarily a path everyone chooses. That's something that people, many people just want a way to make a few $100 extra a month to supplement a little extra. They like to pay for the car payment. Some people would like to maybe, continue to be a teacher, but they want to just have a more secure income. Others would like to replace their current income but with something they love instead of paid. And some people would like full-time careers. So they've gone through the comp plan and they've laid out that this is a realistic program backed by all these years with so many coaches and mentors who can take you wherever you choose to want to go. And by the way, you can decide to start small and become big later. That's okay. Once this is done, then speaker 3 goes into the business testimonials. Business testimonials are different. The speaker 3, after going through the plan in a way that is very comforting, non-threatening, professional, it makes it sound really substantive, strong, not hypey, but really substantiated and grounded well. So that so again, if I've got people who have never been entrepreneurial at all, and then others who are business professionals, anybody says, I appreciated that. That was really well done. That makes sense. It seems good. It seems strong. It's done in that kind of a way. And speaker 3, as the strongest talent in the room, at the front of the room, then brings up the business testimonials. The business testimonials do come to the front of the room. And what they do is they know they're going to be the business testimonials. They're prepped. They're probably in the back or wherever they're sitting. As he said, there's some people like to call out. They go to the side, and typically as you're looking out, you can pick either side. You pick one or the other, but they all go to the one side, come up, and they come onto the stage or into the front of the room area, off to one side or the other. It depends on what are the speaker's preference. I normally always ask them to say, get behind me on the left, stand over there. So I would bring them up, and as the minute I would say, first I'd like to bring up, John, I like bringing up John. John's background is a little bit, I'll let them tell their story, but John's actually a business professional who's been a part of doTERRA for 2 or 3 months or 6 months or 2 years or whatever it is. I'm just giving them a chance to get started. But they all know that they're going to be prepped. And then as they come up and as I call them, they're moving to the front of the room. If it's a larger meeting and you've grown to a 200 or 300 or 400 person meeting, they're fully prepped. I mean, they're on the back, they're waiting, and boom, they're coming up right away. Because I don't want them to waste time, they're up here. The reason is, once they're there, once they're on stage, then I'm going to bring them out one at a time. I'll mention them briefly again. They come to center stage, I hand them the microphone, and I step off to the other side opposing. So I've got my speaker group over here, I've got my testimonial group over here. They come, they take center stage, and I hand the mic and I step off to this side. And the reason is, center stage is the power position. And now we're talking about the business model. And these are people who are going to share their stories, again, from single moms to grandparents to university students to business professionals to truck drivers. I don't care what it is that what's most important is trying to get a broad array of testimonials, because there's so many different people who could say, I'm a truck driver, I can't relate to the doctor. I'm a doctor, I don't relate to a single mom. But I've got this spread, so it's the spread of testimonial that really is the power. When they're done, I step to them. As they're finishing, I step up to them, take the microphone, shake their hand, thank them. They move to the opposite side. I'm now back center stage as speaker 3. I then briefly introduce the next individual, boom. They step up, I give them center stage, I step back with the other one. Until by the time I'm done, the 5 people who started over here all move to that side. They stay on stage. I get them on the stage quickly. That way they can focus. They may be more towards the 90 seconds. Again, it's never more than 90. So the product testimonials may be 60, but they're never more than 90. But they get through it. Boom, they're over here. Then I thank them. Everybody gives an applause. They come and they walk down the center aisle and back out. So it's a very orchestrated process. From the business standpoint, it's very much precision, but it looks professional. They come up to this side one at a time. They end up over there. I thank them, and they all go right down. They go all the way to the back to get out of the way. I want to get them out of the way, not distraction, as quickly as possible. So what's just happened is, again, we've just done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and one of the things that is critically important when you teach people about business testimonials, because there may be people at different ranks, sometimes higher ranks. These individuals here, from the MC to the company to the product, some of these things, because it's newer people, they may have missed something in the mind of someone over here. You don't do anything but your testimonial and get off. You don't go back and start redoing the meeting. You don't think that, well, somebody missed something, let me mention it now. It's not the point. It is just about emotional connection for an audience. Because if this is done properly, by the time I get done by the time I get to right here, where speaker 3 then wraps the meeting, and I'll show you how that's done. And then there's another technique you can add that can be really powerful. There's 1, 2, 3, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. You can literally have 12 to 14 testimonials in a 30 or 35 minute meeting. 40 minutes at most. If you're going longer than 40, people were way over talking the process. Because this is not, it is not the company information, the product information, or the comp plan information that causes people to want to become a part of the team. It's the people they heard, and it was the conversations about team spirit, coaching, camaraderie. We are in this together. Those of us who have come before are here to work with you and to take you by the hand and guide you through the process. It is the stories that create, that is what moves the heart. That's what makes people say, I want to be with this group. These things were only there to give the head the clearance to let the heart go fly. And so then once the last testimonial is there, then it's literally wrapped up. Thank you so much. Here's what we'd like to do. We're going to take a quick break because we know that many of you may have additional questions, and we want, as we promised from the beginning, we want to make sure you get all your questions answered. Please turn to the person who brought you to the meeting and let them know what questions you may have, or if you see that this is something that really aligns with your vision of what you'd like to create in your life, simply talk to them about the best way that you think would be for you to get started, and we look forward to welcoming you to the team. However, we're going to take about a 10 or 15 minute break, and here's what I always used to do. What we always used to do is here's the meeting close, okay? What we always did is we'd say, listen, we're going to take 10 minutes or whatever, usually 10, it would always take 15. I say, and then for those who are interested, if you would like, we have a very simple little process that we call our 15-minute quick start. And it actually is a very precise process that as a team, we coach all new team members through, so that some of the success stories that you've heard, it's not that they got lucky, they weren't special, it didn't happen by chance, it wasn't the lottery. It's actually a very precise process that we have people start and engage with, that we call our 15-minute quick start. And anybody who would like, you're certainly welcome. After the 10-minute break, you can come back, and if you want to move just right up to this front, part of the room over here, we're going to go real quick for those who are interested, go through our 15-minute quick start so that you really understand there's actually a process to the whole function. Now, whether you have one of these or not, it's something you could always create if you're going to do a local meeting. One of the things we always taught was a version of what Lisa and I now teach as a hot market system in a product company. We said, here's how. This is why we have so many people start with the largest package, because literally we have people who going home tonight or between tonight and tomorrow, they not only will have moved their whole package long before it shows up, they'll move much beyond it. Then we begin a process where whatever it is. And so we say, then we actually walk you through a process of engaging with people and asking simple questions so that if they might be interested in learning the same information you just learned, here's how you do it. We actually just created, and what we would do is we would simply just create a 15-minute quick start. Now, you don't have to start the meeting that way. You can end your meeting right here, go to questions, enroll people, and go from there. But this last section, the reason we always had a last section here is if you have, as your meeting grows, you may also have a moment where you have an exceptional guest. You've got a real top-ranked person or a team member or a team mentor who's coming through because your local meeting has been growing. You've now earned the right and have earned the reward or whatever it is. And so this is where you can put, again, your biggest, it could be your strongest person if you'd like. Now, they don't come here. What happens is if you have someone who's that strong, they are introduced coming right out of the testimonial right here. This is where speaker number 3, they get through the testimonials and say, and just before we wrap the meeting, we actually have we have a special treat this evening. We have someone who's coming in to visit with us, boom, 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 boom. If that's the case, if you have that kind of a circumstance, then you can have MC 1, 2, and someone who's relatively strong in the business, but then your strongest person's actually the 5th speaker and is in the number 4 position. The reason you put the stronger people at the very end, if there really is, if someone's newer in the company and industry or the product area, and if there is an error or something, it can easily be corrected. One of the other reasons I love this meeting flow, I loved getting new people in place, and the first time they are terrified, and then getting to the stage to say, by the way, particularly because you can tell when people are really uncomfortable, really scared, and to congratulate them. I've literally gotten some of my speaker 1 and speaker 2 people standing ovations. I said, by the way, I told them they'd be so good they'd get a standing ovation. I know that it was obvious they were nervous. It's their first time. Imagine how terrifying that would be. Would you all do me a favor? Just stand up real quick and clap for them. And everybody loves it. Because you have to understand, just about being a being, people, even the guests, they'd be terrified to stand up in front of people. The greatest thing you can be in meetings is not polished, be human. And so that's what this meeting allows. It allows me to break in a brand new person just to have a microphone in their hand to get them up as an MC, and then do that almost each week. I'm getting new people in as MC. It's just my newer members who've got that spirit. They got the smile. They're so excited. They don't know anything yet, but that's okay. Hey, tell them there's where the bathrooms are. Turn off your phones and don't hold your questions. Then introduce the first person, get out of the way. And so I can be rotating people through here because they're my future meeting holders. Speaker 1 is simple. Speaker 2, speaker 3 has a role. Testimonials are key. Close out the meeting or introduce the special guest, and then you can go to a 15-minute quick start. Here's what happens in this kind of a process. With this kind of a meeting structure, you can develop strength in a team because there is a precision of structure that has nothing to do with talking about the company or the product or the comp plan. It has to do with what could we do to get 10 or 15 people up telling their stories, whether it's about a product or our business, in front of all these new prospects. And most importantly, you just teach everybody, whether you're scared or not, go up, even if you're new at this, click the slide and read it, but read it with a smile. That's it. It's all we have to do. Go up, smile. In your heart, just before you go up, say a little prayer to yourself, whatever it is for you, to whoever it is that you say it to, just say, please allow me to give them the value they deserve with the time they've chosen to spend, and make sure they know I love them. Put on a big smile, say to yourself, I got this, charge out there, click the slide, read the stuff, introduce the next, tell your story, click the slide, read the stuff, introduce the next person. And what you'll do is you'll start developing front of the room team members at such an extraordinary speed that all of a sudden the meetings not only become fun, it's not only so fun, and people can tell that everybody's having a good time, because as a team, speakers get together and say, listen, we're about to have some fun. Let's go have some fun. We love our company. We love our products. We love our teammates. Let's go let these people know whether they're interested in joining us or not. Hey, we're just happy to have them. And we just need to show them that we just love the heck out of each other. Let's go have a love fest. Let's go. Professional, not hypey, but man, there's nothing wrong with them knowing we are a professional, non-hypey, loving group of people who cares monstrously about each other. And if you go do that, following this guideline, you'll build killer local meetings, and the speed at which they'll pop up to supplement and support all the things you do on Facebook or online or everything else. And that's it. I learned that meeting science, almost 30 years ago, and it's never changed. That's the best ideal meeting I've ever seen. So there you go.
That's awesome. I love it how it's so laid out, and for people that are just starting, that might feel big, but like you said, it's, even if you have 2 or 3 people, you can still do the basic concept, but it's just having something that is 1, 2, 3, this is what you do, and then you just build on there. But can you imagine the excitement and the camaraderie between everybody that's doing that together, and the energy that it must give to the whole room just by doing that?
Think about it this way. In most cases, the way they start is a meeting in most cases, it starts in somebody's living room. They invite a few friends over.
Right.
What happens is you outgrow the living room. So you're down at the apartment complex or at the community center in the housing edition, and so you're in the rec room, which now will hold 20. It's once you kind of grow to that level, because I've seen meetings that started with 2 people, and the MC was a son or a daughter who in high school who was maybe in drama. And then, I just want somebody with a microphone who's enthusiastic to point out, here's where the bathrooms are. Please turn off your phones and don't take it. Please hold your questions till the end. Let me introduce the first person. Poof. So the MC doesn't have to have much of a story. Hey, listen, I was drafted because my mom. I'm going to introduce my mom now. Here we go. It can be fun. It can be a family thing. This is a picture of what it evolves to.
Yeah.
If you have a couple of people doing this, you've only got a couple of product testimonials, a couple of business testimonials, but it grows. And as it grows, you engage the team so that they, for them, it's fun to be able to engage in the process, because each person has a simple part that's not overwhelming.
Right.
Driven by a presentation so that they know what they're doing and they know what they're following, so they're not overwhelmed. Point the slide, click the slide, because it's the personal stories that are more important than the details. I'm giving enough facts so the head will say it's okay. So when they see all these wonderful people share, if it's a smaller meeting, that's okay. Just a few need to share, that's fine. But as it grows, that's the ideal meeting. 12 to 14 stories.
Cool. Besides the fact, most people are scared half out of their mind at the idea of getting up in front of somebody to present or do a class or whatever, and it gives them a chance to be scared out of their mind, but just for a brief moment.
Yeah.
And then they move past that fear, and it just gets easier and easier. And then when it's their time, that initial fear is gone.
Well, what I found was when I got newer people up and they were terrified, the first thing we do is, we prep it. Whoever was going to be new, the very next person was someone who had, I wouldn't put brand new necessarily. I would put 3 new people up and who are all terrified. But if I've got a new person that I'm going to throw into the industry and company, then my product speaker is going to go up and say, hey, by the way, as they introduce and say, hey, by the way, hang on just a second. ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to let you know that Romy earlier before we got started was so terrified because this is her first time to ever stand up and share this portion of the doTERRA story. Would you guys give her an extra hand? Because I think she did a great job. That one little boost and people go, wow, it didn't hurt. It turns out I didn't die. They didn't shoot my dog. And it turns out everybody clapped for me. I guess that's okay. And then the more everybody does it, they go, wow, why was I ever afraid of this? And that's why if you go back to the thing I did on fear, you were afraid because you thought it was about you. It's not. Just read the slide. And there you go. Okay? So that is truly the outline of a precision local meeting.
I love it. Does anybody have any questions?
No, again, we stunned them in silence.
So before we go to questions, I think a lot of you have been with us for quite a while and kind of know Curtis's background, but Curtis has years and years and years of experience in this kind of stuff. So even if right now this looks like something that your brain just can't wrap itself around, just trust Curtis. If he says it works, it freaking works. So just try it, trust him, and just move forward because he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah. If you're doing local meetings, again, this is the ideal. Start where there's an old saying. My mentor said, look, do whatever you can until you can do what you want.
Yeah.
So, as Arthur has said, just start where you are, start with what you got, do what you can. So start there, but at least you have a picture of where you're going as your local meetings grow.
Yeah.
This is all about giving new people a shot, engaging more people, and making sure, and really just everybody gets together and says, hey, we're a good team. We got this. Let's go have some fun. And that's it. That's all it is.
Yep. Yeah. I think it would be cool to do something like that. I think it would have been cool. I definitely wouldn't have been, I would have been scared out of my mind, I admit. But if somebody would have said, do this, I would have done it. I still would have been scared out of my mind.
Oh, yeah, I know. Lisa and I, a few years ago, about 2 or 3 years ago, we were coaching a company in Norway. We were spending a lot of time, and we went through, and they had teams throughout parts of Norway and in Denmark and Sweden. We visited a lot of places, and particularly in the Netherlands, went in with some teams there, and they'd had like the same 1 or 2 people who were doing the meeting all the time. We said, stop. If you're the best, you go last. And just find 3 other people so we brought in the team and said, who would be willing if we put it on a PowerPoint and you literally read the slide, click, read the slide, click, read the slide, click, introduce next person. How many of you would at least be willing to try that? And we said, so let's go through a couple of weeks and do that. And it was from the very first week, the phone calls we got back, we had so much fun. And I said, yes, and just have the stronger speakers acknowledge the brand new people who are first time. And you'll get standing ovation clapping because people love to cheer for the underdog, and everybody sitting out there realizes, hey man, one day they may call on me, and listen, at least they had the nerve to go stand up there and click and read the slide. So people actually respect it. We aren't going to these meetings because we're necessarily looking for that perfect Tony Robbins, Zig Ziglar kind of a thing. People are looking to find something that's real, and there's nothing wrong with hanging out with real people. At which point it's not about the polish of the presenter. Put good information on the slides and it's there for them. Click and read, click and read. And what will happen is once you've done it a few times, all of a sudden you'll get into it. You'll love it. Your personality really will come out and you realize, hey, I don't need to be afraid of this. I'm here to help these people. This is a good thing. And you just relax into it. It becomes a lot of fun. And the more you get teams doing that, then all of a sudden meetings start branching out and popping up all over the place. And you have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So all good.
Very good. Questions?
No, I think we're good.
I have a quick one, Curtis. If you have a team or a location that's not real conducive to PowerPoint for a slideshow, what do you suggest? Like click and read. What would be something you could do that would be even more duplicatable?
When you say that it's not conducive, what do you have that could be used? For example, you can literally, if somebody's got a notebook computer, for that matter, they can have a netbook computer, which is about $300, get a USB port, and they've got these little bitty projectors that will about this size that will project on a wall. So my question is if you you don't need a big LCD projector to do that if that's what you're looking for. Because it depends on the side of the room. I guess the question would be, how would you present to somebody in a more one-on-one? And what it comes back to is there a presentation that you have? For example, I used to, when I do one-on-ones, I would sit there and I would take the PowerPoint, I would just print it out and I would put it in a 3-ring binder, and I pretty much just flip the pages because the PowerPoint was beautiful. There was a reason that it was in that order. There was a reason that it had the information it had, and I could turn that into my own flip chart as a presentation one-on-one. It's kind of that, yes, if you're going to get into big LCD projectors to go to a hotel, they're very expensive to rent. Some of them can be pretty expensive to buy, except they've now got pocket versions for a couple $100s that will actually project onto a wall if I've got a smaller group. If we're getting to a larger group, we as a team, we'd get 30, 40, 50, we'd all pitch in $10 and then we'd buy one for the team, and that's where our team meeting projector came from. So I think that it just comes down to it all comes back to a physical meeting location, because I would start, like I started doing just stuff in my house, at which point I would just literally, but you can understand that 25 years ago, I've kind of been using projectors ever since. But in today's world, it would literally be that I could take my computer and plug it into my television in my living room, and I could start there. So it's not that I don't have access to a PowerPoint. It can be, I could literally stick it on a thumb drive, get a little bitty $200 note, one of those netbooks, but I can connect to my TV, and all of a sudden I can do it in the house. It just depends on where you're growing. What we used to do is we just used to, as teams, if we said, here's our local meeting, we'd all pitch in a very small amount of money to go out and create those kind of things, because it'd be for the team use. So, this is designed if I'm really in front of a room of 30, 40, 50 people as it's growing. And at that point, you're going to kind of need that if you're in the room. The question is simply finding the room to put that in. So whether it's some type of an event hall at a church, it may not be necessarily in a hotel where we're renting the room and having to incur that cost. If you're going to get to that direction, then that's where the team kind of has created a co-op, and everybody contributes, $10 a month or $20 a month, so that individually everybody has a minimal business expense to have that location. We used to do that all the time. We would say, we would do that amongst ourselves. We would say it was $5 for all the team members who attend the meeting. Why? Because as we built a meeting to 100 or 200, we could afford the room. And so, but each team member had a very minimal expense because we all came together as a group to offset that expense. It wasn't just the leader paying for the room, everybody contributed, but it was a minimal expense. So to have that room that I could take all my guests to on a weekly basis, I had no problem contributing $20 a month because, I was able to pull that off. So that's kind of the evolution as you come from the house to the local community center to maybe a church room that's donated that you can get through your team, into then maybe getting into that hotel room meeting that is happening at the local Best Western, and then it moves up to Sheraton, then it moves to the Marriott, then it moves to the Hyatt as the team just progresses and grows.
And then to an arena. Go, Michelle.
Exactly. Until then, you're having really big ones.
I love it.
Some leaders have them head out. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. There's nothing more fun than there's nothing more fun than building a local group. When you get a local group going, it's just a ton of fun. It really is. And there's nothing wrong with prospecting online. But it's tough to get 2 people to do that. That's why you got to bring them into events. You really need to attract people into your company events. But vice versa, if you can get a fire started in a local area, a local meeting it can be a ton of fun.
So when you say local, because I'm getting some people 40 miles away and other leaders on here that's about 40 minutes away, would you still just do one until she kind of gets her group a little larger? Because I think I have enough to maybe, if we can really get them on board, and we were talking about how do you spark that, but once we get them on board, then we could be doing, I actually have a location I've been renting in town, but I can't seem to get that regular thing to happen all the time because I need some support with it.
Sure. And if you've got a local team of 5, 8, 10, one of the things I did, I'd sit down with the team. I'd say, listen, here's what I think we can do. Okay. And at first, Michelle, what it comes back to is it really comes back to, as a team, building a culture of proper inviting. If people can master the elimination of fear, because it's not about me, it's about them. And if I can build a team that's more aggressively exposing the invitation to, I mean, see, what I'm really doing is I'm building a local weekly event, and all I'm trying to do is invite people to come evaluate information. That's it. This isn't a pitch fest. It's not a recruitment fest. This isn't a twist their arm, that kind of a thing. This is a place where some people who have some cool information want to invite people to evaluate. And when I suddenly could build a team culture of aggressive invitation for evaluation, all of a sudden our guest count started to rise. And when it all became about, we don't care if they enroll or not, we care that they hear a great presentation of information by which they can make a decision. Well, let me try a couple of the products. Let's start there, whatever it may be. But as I continue to build a culture where what we taught was mastering invitation for evaluation, not invitation for registration or enrollment. This is invitation for evaluation. And when it became purely an invitation for evaluation and meeting a cool group of people who, love each other, support each other, and help each other, all of a sudden the success ratios started to trickle. You got to kind of stick to a place and then get people coming in, because what I would tell someone is, if you can get 10 people at your living room, like our meetings on Tuesday, you get 10 people in your living room on Wednesday, I'll come to you. I'll drive the 40 miles to you. Because if I can start with a group of 10, which means it doesn't have to be 10 members, it could be 2 or 3 people who have enrolled, and they can put another 6 or 7 in that meeting. I'll drive out to that, because I feel if they've got if those 3 people can get 6 people who are guests, I can potentially get 2 or 3 of those. Now we've almost just doubled the size of that group. And I can do that a couple times and say, okay, guys, now that you're here, here's a meeting flow process. Let's just start this, whether we're starting it here in your living room, or whether you've got a local community center, or whether you've got a rec room down, in here in your apartment complex, you got the rec room and you can, rent that room, whatever it is. Let's just start and grow. But, and then because I'll do mine on Tuesdays, I'll drive over here on Wednesdays. Let's continue to grow it. And there's no perfect answer. It's just kind of the gut call you make. It's the gut call you make. It's just because I always tell people, listen, you put 25 people in a room, I'm here every time. But if you say there's just 3 or 4 of you, and you guarantee you'll have 10, hey, I'll come in, because 10 can turn into 20 really quick, can turn into 30 really fast. And it can happen in a 2-week period. If everybody, because when it's that small, I would sit down and look people in the eye and say, is everybody committed to coming next week and bringing one with you? I'm just curious. I just need to know, because I'll drive here if you tell me that. But if you're going to tell me, I came from I'm a real simple kid from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Say what you're going to do what you say. Not real complicated. Pretty simple. So if you told me you're going to come up and bring somebody with you, I'd just invite 5 and go pick up 2 of them. There you go. And that's always the way I did it. And that's how we actually got meetings started, because then we had a lot of fun with it, because they followed this flow, but it was really much more personal. We tell people, here's what we're going to do. We're going to have fun. It's all about having fun.
Any advice on buy-in to get your leaders to buy into this?
When you say, well, I always chose to be my leader. I didn't, in other words, Eric wore, we all pay attention to a lot of things. So I watched Eric's GoPro stuff. And Eric did a training called Formula One, and he actually sold it as a product, but it's in his GoPro All Access. And I was watching, because he has a lot of things in there that he and I talked about. Lisa and I, if you've been around for 25 years, we all know a lot of the same people, or have a lot of the same mentors at one time or another. And one of the things that Eric talks about is becoming independent as soon as you can. It doesn't mean that you act independent. Mentally, I'm going to be independent. Because a lot of people look at, in network marketing, different companies, they sometimes have what's called a master distributor. There was the person there on day one who's, master distributor top, and everybody goes, oh, that'd be so cool to be that. I said, really? How much support do you think they have? When they look up who they got nothing. So everybody thinks that'd be cool, except, well, okay, but boy, you better put on the big boy and big girl britches, because you got to step up, because you're it. But we've always talked about those who often reach the highest levels are those who more quickly, or they didn't get there until they decided that day or one day they were the top. And they said, here's what I'm going to do. So what they did is hey, listen, they turned to the rep line and say, I'd love to have you. I'm telling you now, I don't need you. Not in a bad way, but they just they said to themselves, not out loud, but it was just one of those because they made a decision. I'm going to be independent. I'm gonna look at my upline and say, thank you for the blessing of having introduced me to this. Off I go. That's all I needed. Everything else, anything else you provide, hey, I consider that, icing on the, here I go. And what I would do is I just sit down and say, how can I build a growing, thriving meeting? And I failed for 2 years. Once I finally got mentored and listened, it was about stop focusing on yourself, start looking outwardly. It's about them. And once I started doing that, then I started attracting like-minded people, because the minute somebody enrolled, I would say, let me tell you this has been about you up until now. From this point forward, it's not about you ever again. In your heart or in mind, it can't be about you. We're now here to serve as many as we can. And when I started creating that whole culture in the team of we're here to serve, let's go find, how many can we serve this week? All of a sudden, things started moving faster. Because I said, listen, guys, I promise you I will be capable of doing a good meeting that you'll be proud of. See how many people you can just get into it. Don't worry about it. Don't do what I'm going to do. Don't tell them the whole story before they show up. Then why would they even show up? Just say, there's something I've seen. I'd like you to see it. I'll leave it up to you to evaluate it. Come take a look. And we just stumbled through that process until all of a sudden there were enough of us that we could break this down. And some people did the MC, this part, and I did that part. And I just kind of grew it. And we just stayed hunkered until we built a group. And then we say, great, we're starting to attract people that are, because to me, 30 or 40 miles, 30 or 40 minute drive, is, you do that for a month or two because that's what you do. But then all of a sudden, all you need is a group of 3 or 4. Great. The next week we're going to have 10 because we're all coming back and we're bringing one with us. Great. We just grow it till we get that 15 or 20 nucleus. Boom. And then, I would drive. I say, don't ever drive again. Find a little place there. I'm driving to you. Now let's start driving that one. Because by now in my local meeting, I had people that I could either be the special guest. So now the meeting can continue. If they needed to do it on Tuesday night, mine was to do, oh, great, guys, I'm going to leave it to you guys this week because I'm headed out there. And now we'd start the second one, and then it would just kind of pop out from there. Because from there, we'd get 40 miles further. So that's kind of how it works.
Would you talk a little bit more about how to invite?
Sure. Simplest invitation, Tracy, that I've ever had would be, you and I are talking, and it's, Tracy, I had somebody say something to me just a few months ago. They asked me if I was happy and content. Felt I was doing everything in life I'd ever dreamed of. And I really hadn't. Have you ever felt like that? In other words, my conversation about invitation is I want to find out who you are, where you are, and how you're feeling right now. And because let me tell you, Tracy, let me tell you what happened to me. It was really interesting. I said to them, no, I'm actually pretty successful, but no, I really don't have that. And they asked if I had a plan. I said, well, not really. I'll say, face it, I just do what I do. It's kind of the way life's worked out. And then they said the most fascinating thing to me, they said, well, because they had met someone who actually specialized in helping to coach people to create, additional plans. Now, don't rip your life to shreds, but create additional strategies that you can implement that over time could maybe help you take, move more towards that kind of stuff. And I'd like to introduce you to them. I think they'd be a good person for you to know. That my invitation, when I was prospecting, my invitation was always, I've met someone who's bringing value. I've met a group of people that are creating some value in my life. I'd like to introduce you to them. They have no interest to you whatsoever, and I'm perfectly fine with that. In fact, odds are it really probably won't. But if you don't have a different plan right now, why don't you take a look at it? Because if you see what I saw, I think together we could do great things. And if not, that's okay. But I think if nothing else, they'd be great people to know. What are you doing on Tuesday? That was my approach. I didn't talk about products. I didn't talk about companies. I didn't talk about comp plans. And I eventually mastered it. And the reason was, when I was inviting, I was looking not for everybody. I was looking for a specific somebody. And the somebody that I was looking for was someone who passed my test. And I had a simple test. I have 3 questions that I need an answer to. Do you have everything in life you ever wanted? Do you have a plan that you're following that you know is getting you to achieving that? And if not, would you be willing to look at a plan? That's it. That's my test. The other thing is, during my conversation, I want to see if I think you're a relatively friendly, outgoing kind of a person. You don't have to be wild and crazy. You don't have to be Jay Leno. You don't have to be wacky. It's not that. Do I have a sense that you seem to be someone, do you like people? Are you a people person? You can be very calm in demeanor, very quiet, almost, introverted. But do I sense that you have a heart that you love people? If not, I really wouldn't prospect you. I just didn't. Why? Simple. It's my team. I was looking to build a team of people who like people. Period. Didn't need any other skill. I can't teach you how to smile. I can teach you everything else. I can't teach you to be a warm-hearted person. And so that's who I intentionally look for. I look for people, whether they were the auto mechanic, whether they were the person that's selling shoes or, selling, clothes in a retail store, whether they were a real estate person. I didn't care. I wanted to see people who seemed to be smiling kind of people. They just seemed like people. And then I wanted a simple conversation. Do you have everything in life you've ever wanted? If not, you go get it. If not, would you like to see one? It's probably not for you. But I think it would be worth it for you to take a look at it and you make your own decision. And whichever decision you make, I'm fine with. Because I think that if you see what I've seen, when you see it, you see what I saw, I think together we can do great stuff. And if not, that's okay. And then if nothing else, I hope you go find the plan. We'll get you everything you want because you deserve it. That was my invitation. And so because when I would invite people to evaluate, I'd say there's 3 steps. I always like having 3 steps to an evaluation. Number 1, do this. Number 2, do this. Number 3, I think you need to meet the team coaches that are helping me. So watch this information, listen to this, or so whatever it is that you guys have that you can expose people to. I always like 3 steps. So do this, and then I want it, whether it's on a Zoom conference, I want you to just see some of the people on the team, whether it's a webinar, whether it's go to the local meeting, whether it's hop on a 3-way call. I'd like to introduce you to a couple of my team mentors and coaches. Part of the reason I decided to do it is because I was really attracted to the people who were coaching. I really connected with them. They made sense to me. I think that needs to be part of your evaluation. And so I was always pretty upfront with people. I would like you to, I've seen something that I think is going to change the direction of my life. I'd like you to see it. You may have no interest whatsoever. I'm okay with that. You may see even more than I did. That'd be great. I'll leave all that to you. But I think that if you don't have everything you want in life and don't really have a plan, I think you ought to take a look at it. Because that's who I wanted to see. I was looking for someone who would take a look. That was my rule. That was my test. See, you had to pass. Your answers need to be no, no, yes. Got everything in life you ever wanted? No. Because I'm looking for people who want something. And I want them to want it really bad. Because that's what drives people into action. Or into any action. They have to have something that they don't have that they really truly want, and that'll move them into action if they want it enough. Number 2, do you have a plan that you're following is getting you there? Because if you do, why would I get in your way? Then keep doing it. I'm not going any further because I'm not going to screw up your life. And if you don't have a plan, well, how are you ever going to expect to get it if you don't have a plan? So why don't you take a look at one that I'm following? If you see what I see, let's do it together. If not, hey, that's fine. That's how I prospected. Nobody knew what the company was, the product was for me or anything until they passed question number 3. No guarantee. I'm not telling you I'm doing it. Okay. I said no guarantee. It's probably not for you. And that's how I invited. And that's how I would invite at speed. So.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. See, you guys have such amazing products. Broome, you and I have talked about it. You've met Angel Fletcher, haven't you? At one of the events?
I don't think so. You talked about her a couple of times, but I don't think I've met her.
Are you guys going to GoPro this year?
Yes.
Okay, I'll make sure that between Lisa and I, we'll introduce you.
That would be awesome.
Because I think I told the story about Angel once, but she prospects everywhere. She looks at people who are standing on their feet all day. Because you've got such amazing products with doTERRA, from all the oils and all the things they can do, and even the stuff you've got that, for weight management and stuff. And she goes and looks for, she goes for grocery store lines or checkout lines where she sees people who are, just because they're standing all day, and says, listen, you've been so kind. Just real quick, if I could hand you my card, if you call me, if I could show you something you could do in addition to what you're doing, if you do something part-time, that one day could get you off your feet and making more money and having more fun, would that be of any interest? Great, and give me a call. And she just hands out, and she'll go through a million lines a day just seeing what happens. And she gets so many phone calls because she does it with this giant smile. She is just the sweetest. She just has a smile. She just smiles and everybody smiles. She just smiles and says, let me hand you my card. You've been so kind. I love the way you checked out my lettuce or whatever, whatever it was. Say, but you obviously, it's got to be tiring standing on your feet all day. If I could show you how part-time you can keep this job and I could get you off your feet one day really quick and making at least as much money as you're making here, would you give me a call? Okay, thanks, appreciate it. Because I really like your personality. I think together you and I can do some special stuff together. That's it. She just prospects everybody because it wasn't about the company or the product. If I could help heal your pain. She once sponsored 39 people on a Sunday to prove to her team that you could do it. Larry. She started at 8 a.m. and went until 11 p.m. on Sunday night. Sponsored 39 people one day.
Wow.
She was already earning 6 figures a month. She said, I'm going to have to place these with somebody. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, there you go. That's me.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So
Love you guys. Have fun.
we love you, Curtis. And you guys, I hope you realize a training with Curtis really it's invaluable. But if you were going to pay for this training, it would be, I can't even give
at least $5.
Yeah, I don't want to give a number because I don't want to insult him. But it would be big money.
Well, no, 10 would not be insulting. I'd take 10.
So,
Absolutely.
so for those of you that hung with us to the end, if you please message me that you have been with us to the end, I want to send you an oil because I appreciate all of you guys. I appreciate you coming and showing up every time. And I appreciate you more than anything by showing up and respecting Curtis's time. I think it's amazing and I love you guys. You're awesome and you're just showing what it's all about. So
it's a great team.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Curtis.
Absolutely, guys. I appreciate it, Romy. We'll talk about, of course, I can only get $10 for this until once they see Lisa, then I'm always going to be the free guy because Lisa.
Yeah.
All right, gang.
All right.
See you guys
Thank you.
All right.
We'll see you guys later.
Okay, sure enough. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.